CZ P07 has been one of my most requested guns to review, and so I was really excited about getting a hold of one. I've shot a number of these along with the P09, which I did a review a while back, but this P07, it is sweet. CZ has a huge following, and if you've ever owned a CZ, you'll understand why. I mean, they're just exceptional pistols. They shoot really well. One of the big things though about the CZ that sets it apart from any other current production gun is the internal slide rails. SIG did have originally a model that had internal slide rails, but CZ has perfected the internal slide rail system. And the slide itself actually fits down into the rails. We're going to look a little bit more at that when we break down the pistol, but this really helps with accuracy, and it also helps with felt recoil because your slide is riding a lot closer to the web of your hand as you're firing, and it just rides really nice. Now, CZ's been around since 1919, but in its current form since 1936, right before World War II. And CZ has had a number of really excellent pistol designs over the years, but the CZ75 was their coup d'etat. I mean, it was the pistol that really set it apart from all others. And the CZ75 was almost an enigma here in the States because it was a Soviet bloc firearm, and we weren't able to get any of the CZ75s for a long time. And of course that's changed now. And CZ75 happens to be one of my very favorite handguns of all times. It's one of those classics. Typically they have the steel frame, so it's a pretty heavy, great gun at the range, but not necessarily for concealed carry. And with all the polymer frame pistols, it's really great that CZ really got on the bandwagon with the polymer frames. And man, they were late to the game, to be honest with you. Now, the SP01 Phantom was the first polymer frame pistol by CZ. And the P07 was the first compact pistol, and it was actually called the Duty Model. The P09 is the big brother, and there were a lot of upgrades made to the P09, especially in the Omega trigger system, which was transferred to this new second generation P07. And we're going to look at a lot of the differences between the P07 and the P07 Duty. To be honest with you, the P07 Duty, I just wasn't all that impressed with that pistol. With the P07, the Gen 2 model, I love it. But first thing we're going to do is safety check the pistol. We're going to drop the magazine, make sure the gun is unloaded, and it is. Now, one of the immediate differences that you'll notice on the P07, the new P07, are the front slide serrations. Front and rear, of course it already had the rear. Also the hammer was changed. Before it had a rounded commander style hammer, and they went to this more squared off, which makes it easier to get a hold of from this sight. The sight rides really far back on the frame, on the slide. So because it rides back here, it was a little bit more difficult to grab hold of your hammer. One other thing too is they went from the polymer sights of the original Duty to steel sights. And these are nice 3-dot sights. Very well done, very easy to see at the range. You'll also notice right here how low the slide rides. You can see that it rides down low. And so this really helps again. It keeps the bore axis very low to the hand, so the slide's not going up, it's more staying stable. And in those internal slide rails, it really makes a difference with the felt recoil. One of the great things they did was to give you options of 2 other type back straps. So you have 3 total options for your back strap. And I'm going to show you how to take those off and on. It's really easy to change out. One thing though that they did, they took off the lanyard loop. And what's really funny is this is a brand new pistol from CZ, and yet it still retains this lanyard loop. Another thing they did was to straighten somewhat out the trigger. The trigger had a very sharp curve to it before, which is typical for your CZ75. Here they've straightened it out a little bit. It makes it much more comfortable if you're doing a lot of shooting out at the range. They also changed the accessory rail from just an accessory rail to a standard M1913 Picatinny rail system. But one of the biggest differences was they dehorned the frame and the slide. Right here before, the original Duty model was very sharp. It's one of the things I didn't like about the pistol. And all the little lines were sharp, even back here. What they've done is they've gone in and beveled all the edges. They've decreased the beaver tail somewhat from it sticking out to a point. Here you can see the roundness here on the slide. It's been beveled here. It really makes it more comfortable. This will be easier to go in and out of a holster as well. But all the edges, all the different angles have been toned down and just made to be very ergonomic. The pistol is very ergonomic already, but that really makes a big difference. It has the regular CZ feel to it with this really nice hump right here that just seems to mold in the hand, and then with the beaver tail it really just rides really nice. I mean, it really feels like a CZ. It has a steel magazine release, very positive. These magazines fly in and out. One improvement was they beefed up the magazine spring just to give it a little more positive feeding. It does come with two 15-round magazines. They're steel, they're very well done, it has a nice satin finish to it with polymer base plates. The original Duty model actually had a 16-round capacity. The grip angle is really more similar to the 1911 in the feel. More than typically your Glock and some of your other pistols, which have a different grip angle. Now, if you're used to shooting 1911s a lot, this is going to really appeal to you. I really like the grip angle of the 1911. In fact, that's really what I learned on, was the 1911. Very used to it. Used to do a lot of competitive shooting with the 1911. But really, grip angles are easy to overcome, especially if you're shooting something. And anything you're planning to carry, or you're really depending your life on, you need to have a lot of trigger time behind it anyway. One thing I found too are these pads on the side make it really convenient. I like to bring my finger up to my frame after I've shot. And so it really makes it nice to be able to bring that finger up. It's almost a memory pad, and it's on either side. Now, from the factory, the P07 comes with a decocker. And then it also comes separately with a regular safety, which you can just go to safe to fire. That way you can carry the gun cocked and locked if you choose to. I did go ahead and remove the decocker and installed the standard safety. Now, on the next video, in fact, I've already done the video because I've obviously taken out my decocker. I've got a video showing you how to install your regular safety and then again to reinstall your decocker. But I'll give you a little hint. It's really easy to put in your regular safety, but it's a bear to put in the decocker, and has a lot to do with this little spring right here. But it can be done, and it's not that difficult. It's a lot more difficult behind a camera. Now, one of the big advantages of installing a regular frame safety is that it helps with the trigger pull. It actually decreases the trigger pull, makes it a little smoother, by about 3 ounces. Typically with your decocker you have a little bit more going on, of course that spring and some other things, contact points, that cause a little bit of extra in your trigger pull. One of the things though I love about having a decocker is that if I'm going to carry this gun concealed or I'm going to carry it as a self-defense firearm, if I've got the decocker, I can decock it, yet it's in condition 1, it's ready to fire at any time. I just pull the trigger. So there are advantages and disadvantages to both trigger systems, and so that's one of the great things about having the choice between the two. Another big change was the nitride slide. The finish that was originally on the Duty was not very good, and they were having some problems with some corrosion building up. These have been nitrided. They're very nice and well finished. The pistol itself, honestly, it just looks a lot better. I think the lines are very nice. And there were a lot of things already about the P07 that made it very popular. The panels here have very good texturing, very good gripping ability right here in the front, the back strap. This gun is extremely pleasurable to shoot at the range. The recoil management's really low, and again that has to do with the internal slide rails, and it has to do a lot for the accuracy of this pistol, which it is very accurate. Now, when shooting the first target, I was actually aiming for this spot right here because I wanted to see where it was going to hit. It was dead on. Shooting just filling in this area in this corner. Then when I moved it to the center, again, dead on. So at 7 yards, HPR 115 grain full metal jacket, it's just excellent. By the way, HPR always performs very well. And these targets are easy to see, targets.com. Great target system. There's a lot of different choices. But this P07, it rocks. But I do want to talk about the trigger pull. And so we're going to go ahead and double check, make sure the gun isn't loaded. Now it seems like a lot of the pistol designs have gone to the striker fire pistol instead of the hammer design. This is a double single action pistol. And I'm going to demonstrate that by just showing you the trigger. When you pull the trigger back, watch the hammer, it comes back and it fires. That is your double action because it actuates the hammer all the way into the cycle. After the first round is fired, the hammer will remain in the rear position. Now you have a much less of a trigger pull, and then the hammer comes down. Now one of the huge advantages of a hammer fired pistol is that if you have a dead round in the chamber, if you pull the trigger and it goes click, no bang, you can do a second shot. You can bring it back and do it again and fire the pistol. That's one of the things that a lot of the striker fire pistols, if they hit a dead round, you've got to rack the slide to the next round because it's not cocked. And so that's one of the benefits of a hammer. The double action trigger pull is long, but it's smooth. And guys, to be honest with you, it's fairly heavy. It's probably close to about a 12-pound trigger pull. So that first shot is going to be pretty stiff. Now when we talk about single action, bring the hammer back. Single action has just a little take up to here and then a nice crisp snap. In fact, this is a really exceptional trigger. And then reset. Not too bad. It does come out a little ways. But as you can see, that's not much of a gap right there. Now the single action trigger pull though is about 4 pounds, 3 ounces. That's about where it kind of averaged out. With the decocker, it was averaging out at about 4.5 pounds. That is lighter than the Glock trigger pull. Your Glock triggers typically from the factory are about 5.5 pounds. So you're going to have a smoother, more consistent trigger pull on that single action trigger pull. The first double action though, it's going to be pretty tight. But that's also going to help with your safety as far as carrying. Just like a revolver, it's got a pretty stout double action. Now there is a hammer drop safety internally, and there's also a hammer block safety. But I wanted to bring out the Glock 19 for size comparison. To me, the P07 is very comparable to the Glock 19. And as far as size and things like that, the way it feels, it's pretty close to the same dimensions. As you can see, the slides actually on the P07 are a little smaller, but because of the beaver tail, it actually comes out a little longer. But it does ride up really nice. And then again, the grip here is a little bit larger on the Glock, and it's a little more ergonomic and straight on the P07. As far as slide width, the slide width itself is not much different, but the big difference is your safety. And this is going to add a little more thickness to the pistol, especially in this rear area. But one of the things about concealed carry is that this is going to be at the top part of your holster. Down in this area is really where you need the thinness. So I don't really think that that's going to make a big difference as far as practical concealed carry problems. But the Glock is very smooth. And the weight on the Glock is 23.7 ounces. The weight on the CZ P07 is 27.4 ounces. Coming up, I'm doing a full review, a comparison review between these two and a lot of the things about them. These are two of my very favorite pistol designs. The Glock, I've carried Glocks for years. The CZs, I love CZs, and so I thought it would make an excellent comparison. And in fact, a lot of the video for that's already done. The safeties or decocker, whichever one you go, is ambidextrous, so it goes either way. The mag release can also be switched from right side carry to left hand. Of course, you have your slide release right here, and it's pretty much what it is. Now we're going to break down the pistol, and we're going to take a look at some of the internals. So first thing we want to do is make sure the gun isn't loaded. Now right here are your witness marks, and what you want to do is line those two up. It's right there at that first serration, as you can see. Then we come over to the other side, and I usually take a punch or something and just push that out. It's pretty stout. And then your slide release just pops right out. To remove the slide, bring it back a little bit and then forward, and then it comes off the frame. Have your nice recoil spring. Has the Browning linkless design barrel system. The barrel is 3.8 inches, and it is a cold hammer forged barrel, which really extends the life of the barrel, makes it really nice, really strong rifling and grooves in the barrel. Now you can see the slide rails, how they're running on the inside, and then the frame. Just a really unique design, very nice. And this is field stripping the pistol. To reassemble the pistol, just go in reverse order. We're going to place our barrel in first, then our guide rod, internal slide, get to your witness marks, and you're all done. Again, it does come with 2 extra back straps. Again, this is the smallest. Now, one of the things about this lanyard loop is this is your mainspring that runs right back here, and this has to do with the hammer action. If you depress the lanyard, it takes out the pressure right here of this pin. If you don't have a lanyard, you may be able to push it up with something else, but I'm going to just put a little pressure on that and then push that pin through, and it makes it much easier to come through. Here's the pin. There's your lanyard. This is a polymer piece, and this would be very easy just to shave that off. And then you pull out your mainspring. There is a stirrup here that, or a piece that comes down that fits over this spring, and when you go to replace it, just make sure that goes back over that that little leg right there, and you can see it right there. And the grip just slides right off. And of course, you can place any other grip on here without any trouble. There are little grooves that fit there, and it'll just right into place. You can pop your grip in. That is starting to look a little bit more like this traditional CZ design. Of course, the larger one's probably a little bit large. Probably the medium would be very close. But for my hand size, I really like the small. I like the ergonomics of the smaller grip. Clip it into place. Take your spring. Slide it over and take your lanyard. You want to make sure that you get that lanyard or this piece in the right orientation. Again, I'm going to have to push that down to get this pin to go in. It makes it just much easier. Once you get it into place, you're all done. Go ahead and test for function. You make sure that mainspring is in place, and it is. Comes with a really nice box, and have a little tab here. Nice closed foam padding. Again, there is an extra magazine. I don't have it right here, but you know, you can understand that. Here we have our cleaning rod and a bore brush. Up in the top we have our owner's manual, even a factory target, and of course we have the dreaded gun lock, which of course this goes in my junk drawer. But a really nice box to be able to store. I don't typically use gun boxes. I do keep them and save them in case I ever want to sell something, but really this is a gun that you don't want to sell. It's just one of those exceptional firearms that if you ever do sell it, you'll regret it. So CZ has really come out with some beautiful, nice designs in the polymer line, and they still carry their old classic pistols, the CZ75, and all the different CZ75 variants, which I own personally a number of because I love those pistols. The CZ75, the PCR Compact, the Rammy, there's just so many. The CZ97, which is the 45, that is an exceptional pistol. And guys, you got to be careful though. If you ever buy a CZ, you're going to find yourself loving CZ pistols. It's really funny because the CZ reviews typically are some of my most popular reviews that I do, because these pistols are so well loved. One of the things that it can be a problem is finding them. A lot of times they can be very difficult to find. Now the P07 comes in 9mm, which is 15-in-1. It also comes in 40 caliber, which is 12-in-1. Now the MSRP on the P07 is $510, but typically you can find these in about the $450 range. So you have some really exceptional quality that is actually a little lower than a lot of your other standard pistol designs, including the Glock, the M&P, and the XDs, and a lot of others. But yet the quality is just as high, if not greater, with the CZ pistols. Now you can find a lot of additional information and all the different models that CZ produces at cz-usa.com. I'll have the link down below in the description. But it's just a great place to go and just to drool over the incredible collection of pistols, rifles, and shotguns that CZ produces. CZ P07, thumbs way up. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. Some of the immediate differences you'll notice with the P07 are the front, okay. And they've actually upped the magazine. I don't know that that's, but one of the things too, they beefed up the magazine. One of the things too though is one improvement was they beefed up the magazine, okay. And then again, to reinstall your hammer, you're actually down to about a half a pound. Okay, yeah. Pads are very nice. The check string, and it can be switched to the other side, I think. I'm not even sure about that. Well, there you go.